Bill, Katie, hi, Marcia, Andrea Reed, George Meserve. Okay. All right. Okay, our first order of business today is a discussion about our request from the CPC committee for fiscal year 22 regarding affordable housing. As an update, at our last meeting, we talked about this, but weren't sure what we were going to do. So following the meeting in October, I contacted Alan McLennan of the Affordable Housing Trust Board to clarify what he thought and what we thought regarding CPC requests. After a very good discussion, we came up with the thought that Affordable Housing Committee will continue to request funds for the general support of the Affordable Housing Initiative by requesting money for the Affordable Housing Trust. The Affordable Housing Trust Board will work more towards specific projects or encouraging other project leaders to apply for additional monies from CPC. So that was our decision because we talked quite a while and we decided this is a team approach where we're working as a team, Affordable Housing and the Affordable Housing Trust Board. So the goal of funding affordable housing is both of our responsibilities, and we'll work together to make that happen. Any comments, questions? Does that sound good to people?
Yes.
Um,
Do we need to vote?
So what?
Do we need to vote?
Yes, we need to vote on whether we should make a request before we make the request.
Mhm.
Okay. All in favor of making a request to CPC to fund the Affordable Housing Trust Fund this in the next fiscal year, please, by roll call. Shelley,
Shelley, aye.
Fran,
Fran, aye.
Nancy, I, Bill,
Bill, aye.
Katie,
Aye.
Marcia.
Aye.
Okay, so it's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 0, 0.
Nancy, I'm sorry. I
Okay.
just don't see Rich. I just wanted to make sure somebody was taking notes.
Shelley is,
Okay, sorry. I know I was late.
it's okay. You're all set, Shelley?
Yep.
Okay. So now somebody want to make a motion for an amount of money that they think would be a good to offer, and then we can have a discussion about it. Anybody have an idea? Last year, we asked for, okay, Fran?
I would move that we ask for the 500,000 as we did last year to support the activities of the trust.
Second.
Seconded. Who seconded? Katie?
Yes.
Okay. Any discussion? For Marcia's benefit, we had gone from 100,000 to 300,000 to 500,000 over the years. So, and that was our request last year for that amount of money.
How much is outstanding, or is that not an issue?
What do you mean outstanding?
In other words, have we spent all that money?
The balance of the
No,
trust is
no.
about $1.3 million right now.
But our goal, of course, is to make it as full as possible so that we can be ready to act when necessary. And since we have several projects, or they have several projects in the pipeline, I'm sure they could be appreciated. Anything
that's what
else? Any other comments?
That's what I was going to ask is, should we be asking for more since we know we have one definite project and one feasibility kind of level project going on? I mean,
Well, I think we're mostly trying to add to the overall total. And when a real project comes up, like maybe Cape Cod 5 or something else, 107, they can also go directly from the Affordable Housing Trust Board for this. And I'm sure that I'm not sure, but I would imagine they have something in mind. I don't know, or they'll be able to go back next year. So,
I mean, I think they can always go back next year. I would just add that I think the total amount of CPC funds is less than $1 million. So we're asking for more than half of it. And we're only entitled to 10% of it. So I don't want to get too greedy, I guess is my point.
so you want less than 500,000?
No, I'm all for asking for the 500 we got last year. I just don't
I
want to
thought
get.
that was a good
greedy.
number. We
Yeah,
were very happy to get that number. That was wonderful that they acted on that, so I would agree. George?
Just to talk to Shelley's question about real projects. If a project like the Cape Cod 5 were to come to fruition and we received a significant funding request from the developer, then the Housing Trust could ask the CPC if they would bond that amount of money. And, you know, if you bond something over enough years, your annual obligation is still pretty low and still leaves ample CPC funds available for general distribution.
Thanks.
Thank you, George. All right, so Rich just joined us. Welcome. We have a motion on the floor to request $500,000 from the fiscal year CPC, fiscal year 22 CPC budget. We're having discussion right now.
Andrea has her hand.
Any more discussion? Andrea?
Sorry,
Andrea?
just as liaison, would this, just a point of information, would you, if you're planning to take on any advocacy roles within your own group, would a CPC request have to cover any future expenses for you for the coming year? Just a question to you.
Well, we do have our $10,000 still. I'm going to talk about that one next. We still have that money to be used for this coming year. So I don't anticipate more than that, but we are going to discuss whether we need to add additional to that or not. But this money would go directly to the trust, I suppose.
and I think it's only 5, wasn't it, Nancy? Didn't we only get 5 for the educational reasons last year?
It's
Yeah.
only 5? Maybe I
I
already
think we
added.
requested 10 and they gave us 5.
Correct.
Okay.
Yeah.
Sorry.
But we can
Correction, it's
also,
$5,000.
we could also ask the trust for some funds if we needed it too. At
We
any
could do
point.
that. If we're doing public relations work, which will benefit the trust as well, I suppose that you could ask for them for that.
Well,
Wanna-
does that question directly relate to what our discussion would be in the community engagement process? And what we might need to support that, whatever we decide?
Yes, and that's why we're going to go secondly to the, if we want to do another education grant for ourselves as well as this other one to fund the trust. That's the next piece. So this piece is a standalone for adding money to add to the trust. And if you want to make it less, that's fine, but we can put right now it's on $500,000 is the motion, so.
Can you
we
make
vote
two,
on that? I'm sorry, Marcia?
can you make 2 separate requests?
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay.
We did that last year. We asked for $300,000. I think we did, didn't we? Yes. And then we also asked for the education grant. And then it's up to them to decide what they'll, sometimes they do more, sometimes they do less, depending on what's available. So we do have that option too. So we're not shutting ourselves out from that if we choose to vote for the $500,000 right now, correct? Okay. So we have the motion for $500,000. No more discussion.
500,000,
What did I say?
5.
500,000, yes. Okay, roll call vote. Shelley,
Yes,
Fran,
Yes.
Bill,
Yes.
Marcia,
Yes.
Katie,
Yes,
Rich? Yes, he's nodding his head. Nancy, yes. All right, so 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 0, 0. Thank you.
Nancy, would you like me to prepare that application for you to review before it goes in?
You know I would, George. Please, yes. Okay, the second item under the CPC request is, do we want to add to our $5,000, ask for anything more? my one thought was, after listening to the planning board at the last meeting, I thought maybe we should put some money in for, to help somebody with a facilitator role. Because our group is basically on educational materials, print materials, things like that. But I heard this quite a bit during that meeting, that some kind of community visioning process or something like that, that would probably use a facilitator. So I don't know if that would be something we could help with, the planning, with the cross planning with other groups. I don't know. What do you think? Fran?
I support our asking for more money for our outreach, because I think there are a number of things that we need to do, which include a facilitator for sure, which include materials, which include maybe creating a space on the town website, which would include, I don't know how many other things, but I think we need to do extensive outreach, and I think we should have the flexibility of having enough money to cover whatever it is that we come up with in our future discussions.
And the other thing, along with the facilitator, when I looked at your notes, we wanted a lot of visuals. Everybody was requesting visuals of what is currently here for affordable housing and what we envision in the future. And I know that that costs money to get visuals and things printed up for that really work. So I think that was something we didn't add really from our last time, any photography that we wanted to do. So those would be an additional. In our last one, we had asked for educational brochures, housing workshops, newspaper advertisements, town website update, informational video, resident mailings, public education materials. Those were the topics that
Yeah.
George had put in for the last request for the $5,000. So in addition, so we could ask for more money for those topics, or additional money for photography and facilitation and other materials printed materials that we're not aware of yet. What do you think, George? Would that be something?
I
you'd
think you
like
should
to
ask
do?
for what you want, and we'll strategize on how to delicately describe why we have not delivered and spent the last amount of money, and what the future plan is. I think as you work on the materials you have for later in the agenda, I think there's some organization that's starting to develop here that we can work from. So
Right,
yeah,
and I think that is our
doesn't
answer.
hurt to
that
ask.
Suddenly we have projects. When we made a lot of this, we didn't have a whole lot of projects to talk about, and now we do. So I think we are ready to move to that phase and use that money wisely. So would you like to write up that one too? Once we decide on it, we could do something. Rich?
Can you hear me?
Yeah,
Can you hear me?
yes,
Good, good.
no?
I just want to say we had kind of thought of 10,000 as the budget for video and everything we were going to make last year. That was our original request of 10. If we could do the other 5 this year, then we can move forward with that video and everything that was planned with the 10 as the budget.
Would you like to make that a motion? And then we
Yes,
can-
I make a motion that we request an additional $5,000 from CPC for educational purposes.
Second? Okay, Shelley, second. Any discussion? Fran?
I guess I was thinking in my head 10 to give us 15. So you may have, Rich, you may have a specific reason for the 5, which I would certainly support. But I think that when you talk about video, that's really expensive. So I would go for asking more rather than less. And if they don't have it or don't want us to have it, that's their choice.
Would you like to amend the motion for $10,000?
I would.
Yes, I'll amend my motion for 10.
Okay. Bill?
I was just going to say, I agree with Fran. I think we should go for the 10 because they may cut it back again, but I think even considering all the things that you just ran through that we may want to use it for, And, you know, going through that version of all of our comments, I think 10 is definitely a fair value to ask for. And plus they may cut it back and we'll get the 5, but I think we should go for the 10.
Okay.
And
Any other
if I could just
discussion?
add to the justification here, let's note that this committee has been operating under COVID since the money was authorized. So there's a good reason why you haven't tried to do significant outreach and you've been a little reluctant to spend those funds.
Exactly. Very good. And that's the truth. Anything else? All right, shall we put this to a vote? Shall, we're now voting on $10,000 as a CPC request. Shelley? Aye. Yes, she's nodding her head. Fran?
Yes.
Bill?
Yes.
Marcia?
Yes.
Katie?
Yes.
Rich?
Yes.
Nancy? Yes. All right. 700. Thank you. Okay, we'll have our work cut out for us and we'll have money to support it. That'll be lovely, hopefully. So, okay. All right, just a reminder that we have to end this meeting at 5:15 because there are 2 other meetings coming on at 5:30. So we limited our agenda items to these 2 major items so that we could get through it. So
Nancy?
and George made a comment a little while ago. It's really hard to do an outreach plan when you can't even sit in the same room and pass materials back and forth. So I appreciate this, but we're going to really try to see if we can get one. So when we're free to go or we're free to make something, we'll be ready. So after receiving all your input from the brainstorming activity, I wanted to just note 3 things that I was really pleased to see how many references there were to these topics in the housing study. I know a lot of people did. I went through and I tried to find almost for everything. There was some reference to it. So the housing study is still a useful tool, and it has good verbiage in there for us as we start trying to plan for new things. Our members have a really good background. Everybody who submitted things were wonderful. You had good thoughts, and we can see that we're all in different areas. We have our strengths in different areas on this topic, and I think that's really exciting as well. And the third thing I think was, as we started to put it together, there's a lot of opportunities for interface that came with other committees and among the town staff and the community at large to bring up these topics in a variety of ways. And I think those are our 3 main goals: to show the value of it, show what we know and what we have to offer, and how we can share it among different groups to get to the end result that we want to be at. So that was just my comments, but I wanted to see if you had some general comments before we go any further. It was, as you know, it was a draft, so that you can add more to it or whatever. Fran?
I just wanted to say, I
Fran?
thought you did a fabulous job of putting this together. It was so helpful. I have found the housing study dense and hard to follow in terms of getting a pattern. But you were able to create a pattern of a kind of engagement protocol, which I thought really worked, and that somehow all of these references, which I did follow up on, it's fabulous material in there that
It is.
I'm like, wow, I forgot about that. So thank you very much for doing it.
No, you're welcome. Well, thank you for everybody, sent in. And Marcia and Shelley had done a lot of page work, and I really tried to use your format, Marcia, because it seemed to be the most logical, and that actually helped us get back into the study again. So I do thank you for that. So any other comments about, did everybody get a chance to read through it? this 3-page document. Did everybody get a chance to at least go through it? Yes? Okay. Okay, the first part of this was to put down our ideas and try to put them into some kind of organizational framework and find out if we had supporting data to make our case. And I think those 3 things we did already in terms of this. Now looking at this outline, I think what we need to do is prioritize what's in each section, make a timeline, and what's the other one? And flesh out the information that we think is really important. There's a lot of detail in here, but it's not even as detailed as when we actually make an actual production. So that's my theory here. I don't know if I was thinking maybe we could go through each section and talk a little bit about that and see if something was missing or something that stood out to you or whatever, or something you wish we had said instead. This is mostly your words, so we can wordsmith it, or what I'm more trying to do is focus each section so that we know what the next step would be. And that's a big one. Does that make sense to you, Marcia?
Yeah,
Marcia?
you know, I've done a lot of these processes, and the important thing is really to focus. So I made it as broad as I could think of, because I don't know what all you have done here and where your priorities have been in the past and what you have been thinking about since the study was done. But since we don't have very much time, I mean, if anything is major is missing, I think you can add to it. But I really would like to hear from you guys where the priorities are for the next year or two, because this outline is, you know, a 10-year effort costing thousands of dollars if you let it be that. So I would be more interested in sort of focusing. For example, general education. I think you guys have done a lot of general education. And I think at this point, given all the projects going on, it's better to focus on something specific that can add to the projects rather than just educating people about the need for affordable housing. You know, some people will never convince and other people are already there, but where you actually put the effort. And what I was a little confused of is how much you do on the general stuff, you know, the overall goals and priorities versus how much is related to the projects that is now in front of the town, and how this effort can yield results that provide support to each of the projects that are now being considered.
Okay, I'm not going to comment. I'm just going to listen for a little while. So Shelley?
I was concerned a bit at the town meeting on Saturday that there still is, it seemed to me, quite a lot of confusion about what affordable housing means. And so although I hear what Marcia is saying and I agree with her overall, I think we can't say that we don't need to do general education still, because I think we still do. We can do it in some less than personal ways. In other words, website and, you know, ongoing column in the newspaper or something. I don't think we have to spend a tremendous amount of time on it, but I think we do need to sort of start a regular trough of information going from Affordable Housing Trust and Committee out to the general populace in our town about definitions. You know, what are we really talking about? Are we talking workforce housing, affordable housing, you know, low income housing, 40B housing? I think there's a lot of confusion still.
There was a lot of commentary on that. That was one of the most talked about things on Saturday. So I think you're right about that. Bill?
Yeah, I would agree with Shelley that I think there is still that need for general education, because people still are, when you say affordable housing, like George mentioned before, there's 500 people have 500 different opinions. I think when you say affordable housing in general, people all have their own perception of what that means. And does it include, housing for, that we talk about like big A and little a affordable housing and work for housing and all of the housing that's involved. And I think it's important that we continue efforts or initiate efforts to really clarify when we're talking about affordable housing or when we're talking about the projects that we're looking at. What do we mean by affordable housing? I mean, we're looking at the Governor Prince as a property for the town. And we all know there's been already a lot of talk about what does that mean? And when people say affordable housing and how much of it and all of that. But I think if we can get people to understand, and maybe a little bit of ourselves too, what's in our minds when we talk about affordable housing to people, and what audience are we talking about targeting when we talk about reaching out and making it affordable housing more available to people. So is it encompassing all of the housing that we talk about? I mean, included in that, and it's mentioned here too, and right off front in the first objective. You're talking senior housing, you're talking income requirements, all of that. So I think there still is that need. And it can relate to Marcia's point. As we do that, it can relate to specific projects. So you can tie that general objective into a specific project, and then how does that relate to that project? So when we are talking about affordable housing in 107 Main Street, or we're talking about affordable housing for Governor Prince, in our own minds, and what's the message, and what exactly, what type of housing are we referring to? And I think it's still important for people to get a better sense of that.
Okay. Anybody else?
Here. There is so much confusion about what housing is.
No.
And it's funny because everybody's for it. But when I hear people talk about firemen and policemen needing affordable housing, they're not qualified. And they don't meet the income guidelines. So we've got to be more clear. And I think this committee probably should spend 45 minutes just looking at the income guidelines for various levels of housing, 30, 60, 80, 100, and what they are for families, so we can speak intelligently about what is affordable and what's not affordable. The missing middle is the piece that we never talk about, because you're charged as an affordable housing committee. That's your charge, like it or not. But there are many people who are working super hard to live in this area and contribute to the community, who right now this committee does not have the capacity to serve, except peripherally. You can do some market rate units within your affordable projects. So I just want to reiterate, Shelley and Bill, and I think we all understand that when you're talking to people, they're not speaking the same language. So somehow we need a more gut level language that people will relate to.
And are we
Katie.
raising hands? Sorry, I didn't realize you were raising hands. I was actually going to look to Fran to this, because I think CDP did a little sort of public service announcement, which put faces to income qualifications. So I'm not so sure that we need to reinvent the wheel, or just make some of those materials available on our website for people.
Fran.
Yes, I think we should use whatever materials are available. Thank you, Katie. But I also think that we should talk about 40B to really understand ourselves what 40B offers us, because that offers us the availability of having market rate housing in our projects, in our developments. And so we can use our leverage to bring in the kind of small A affordable housing that people are talking about with the 40B process.
Anyone else?
Andrea's been waving at you.
I'm sorry, I can't see you, you know?
You on gallery view,
I'm
Nancy?
sorry.
Uh,
I have you, but you're just not far back that I keep, sorry.
It's okay. I
Speak up,
just want-
Andrew. Anything you want to say?
I do, because I've had some stunning conversations and pushback from planning board members, FinCom members, and select board members who do not understand the main story, and we are the ones who are supposed to be leading this thing. You could do the town a tremendous service by being the Zen masters and building. The CDP has done a fantastic job, but if you could coalesce and refine the information, your leadership on here would be inhaled by the other town committees who really don't understand. And I think the clarification, the work to go through that process as the advocate committee will be picked up like sponge by the other committees who believe in your mission, but don't have the language to support it. I spent a lot of time right up to town meeting defending the misconceptions. For instance, one myth out there is that because 107 Main and Cape Cod 5 could be developed, we don't need any other type of affordable housing. That was a big pushback from someone on FinCom. The other was that don't build it in my backyard. If it's all affordable, nobody thinks they want to live next door to it, and they're afraid of the scope and mass of the building, as opposed to recognizing, like George we got this through from planning board, that you could have all different architectural styles now, since that apartments can be unattached on a single lot. You have so much ammunition between what you're talking about, providing visuals, clearing up definitions, that if you could take the messages you want to get across, sift through them in your own committee and bring them out to the town, we would be so grateful.
Bill?
Yeah, not to repeat myself, but I think Andrea just reinforced one of the comments, and what I was thinking is that, not in my backyard. It's because when people hear affordable housing, they have their perception of what that means. And I couldn't agree more. We have the opportunity to clarify, and going back to George's comment about using the study for the income levels as a guide, because I think that would definitely help people. And to Fran's comment on the 40B, I never realized until recently that in 40B housing, there is that opportunity to provide working class family units as part of 40B. But there again, you mentioned 40B to a lot of people, and they're like, "Oh no, we're not there. We don't need 40B here." So I think it really goes back to the whole point that we're all kind of, I think, agreeing on, is just really clarifying it in our own minds so that we can put a message together to do exactly what Andrea is talking about.
Fran?
I'm wondering about a 3-tiered approach. I like George's idea of let's spend a concentrated time amongst ourselves talking about these things to see if we understand them.
Yeah.
And then maybe having a joint meeting of the planning board, the Board of Selectmen, and the Housing Committee and the Housing Trust to have that conversation on a broader level so that town officials, volunteer officials, and staff can all be on the same page about what we're talking about. And as Andrea said, we need to speak the same language. And then once we've created that body of knowledge amongst us, then I think it's easier to take that to the community because we'll be all sending the messages out in our way. And I wanted to bring to people's attention 2 articles that I found in my pile of stuff today. And one is from the Massachusetts Housing Partnership. If you go to the Mass Housing Partnership website, it's in their toolbox, and it's called Addressing Community Concerns About Affordable Housing. And it's excellent. It gives things that people are concerned about, and then it gives how you answer their concerns. And secondly is that, I don't know where I got this, but it's called, can you see that? It's
Yeah,
it's put out by Frameworks Institute. It's called "You Don't Have to Live Here," in quotes. Why housing messages are backfiring and 10 things we can do about it. And it talks about the historical way that we've talked about affordable housing and why what we have said historically does not work and backfires in our message. And it shows that there are other ways to reframe the conversation in a way that is helpful and brings people on board. So I would love that we all share these articles because I think there's a lot of really good material here.
I have that second one on in my file. I can email that out to people.
That would be
That is a good article. I think Barry gave us that a while
he?
ago.
Yeah.
Anyone else? Marcia?
Yeah, I will say, I think these are all great thoughts and it's helpful to me to hear what you think is needed. I will say that from my experience, people react based on where they are. So you can have all the facts and figures and needs, etc. But if you're a neighbor to a pending project versus a business owner trying to house their employees versus somebody's interested in homelessness, you react where you are. So I think what I've learned is the community engagement thing is just, it's not just taking all those facts and explaining them again and again. It's figuring out how to get through to targeted audiences, specific messages and images. So for example, we got, where I was before, we got into the infographics, which basically is a 1 or 2 page thing that is very visual, very attention grabbing, but has very few words and figures in it. So, you know, you don't want to go into a 62% of people are here and 5% of blah, blah, blah. You want to create an image. So I think George is right. Every time somebody says a firefighter is going to live here, that's not the case. It might be a home healthcare aide or a daycare aide or an admin assistant, but then to put it in a form and a visual that people can say, oh, it's my neighbor, or it's the person who comes and cleans my house, or whatever that is. I think that's the powerful thing. And I think you do need consultant expertise for that. It's something that doesn't necessarily come to me automatically. I don't know what will get through to what audience. I also think you need to think through specifically who you're trying to communicate with and alter that mode of communication depending on your targeted audience.
Yeah.
If I can just jump in, I think the general acceptance of the need for affordable housing is almost universal. Down here in the Lower Cape, there's no doubt, it's probably nationwide. So I think we're on to the what kind of projects are going to be acceptable. And if think about the goal. The goal is, if the goal is 4 large projects over 10 years, let's think in terms of how do we help people understand what the implications would be for each of those projects if they're nearby, and why they may or may not be acceptable, and think through how we can adjust them. I don't think we have to. We go to town meeting, you'll ask for $500,000 in May. You probably get it if the CPC recommends it. So the funds are an expression of values. That's good. I think at the project level, you still run into 107 Main Street, where people have preconceived or preordained decisions that they want to tell you about before you've even presented the project.
Andrea?
Just a question, because it came up with Governor Prince, and it might keep coming up. I think in your advocacy, and I don't know if you want to touch it or not, but remember the question came up that, well, if the hotel isn't there, the motel isn't there anymore, people don't understand the impact of people in it, the economic productivity of people living downtown. And year-round jobs. The people living downtown help support all the local businesses in a walkable downtown. So I don't know, in terms of your advocacy, if that matters. If we go back to some of the plans, for a vibrant downtown, if people living downtown is part of that. Because I think there's a lack of understanding that if the motel isn't there, the town is losing something. And that is not true. By people living somewhere, everybody gains something. And if you could tell that story, that might help too.
Marcia.
Yeah, I did hear that basically people don't think you should take commercial land out of commercial use, which is not what I'm hearing here, is that there's lots of land. It's how you develop what you need economically in a more efficient way, which does mean more density, and it in a multi-use way. But I think there's a group of people who think you should keep Governor Prince in commercial mode, which I'm not getting the impression that's what the town wants to do. You want a much more complex thing, and we actually may have too much commercial land, in which case you need to make the case that the economic future of the town doesn't depend on keeping every square foot of commercial land in commercial use, and specifically the village center. So that is one specific thing I think could help the Governor Prince discussion.
Well, and I also think that we need residential affordable housing. No one is saying we don't. Do we need more commercial buildings? We would love it if we get a whole bunch of new businesses in town, but we don't exactly know where those are coming from. So, the commercial versus residential, I think is not really an issue for us to worry about in some ways, because what we need to do is explain why the affordable housing need is there. If the commercial gets developed, that'll be great too, but I don't think that's not, I don't know if we have to defend that, because we can't say, well, if we don't do this, we'll help you get commercial business. That's not going to happen. We're not going to do that. So I think our role is to show why this is needed, where it could be, and what would it look like. I think those are our three jobs, and that's what we're trying to do here by narrowing down, by giving examples. We haven't done this before because it's really difficult, okay? But when I decided to take over the chairmanship from this is the reason I did it, because I know that it's not the only reason I did it, but I knew that was what the job was going to be from now until June, or now until whenever, because this is what we have to do, and it's the hardest one. We've done some hard things. We did the trust. We've done a lot of discussion about things. We've gone to a lot of workshops, but this is really it. This is where we have to really put our effort at this point. And if it was this easy, we would have done it by now. So, Fran.
Bringing up the whole notion about commercial and residential, there's a economic development study that was done a few years ago that I think that we can make available to people that actually bring some of that information forward. Which then reminds me that there are a ton of studies and public outreach that has already happened that the planning board by and large has been doing over the years.
Right.
And certainly the outreach that the housing committee did in preparation for doing the affordable housing study in 2017. So I think it would be helpful if we had information available very briefly, very concisely, to say, what are the studies that have been done? What are the recommendations that have come out of them already? And how do they apply to where we are now? Because we are not going to be reinventing the wheel. And I think so much work has been done, and people who have either not tuned in or people who are new to the area haven't a clue about what that work was. And I think we need to bring that work forward and present it and build on it rather than trying to recreate it.
I totally agree, because I spent a lot of time on the planning board section of town the town website, and it's a lot of dense material, but you've got the village, you got the design guidelines, you have the village center. I saw the community indicators, which I never looked at before. And I think if we really looked at it, it's like a research paper. I think that's what we have to do right now. We don't have to we don't have to write a research paper. I mean, we don't have to write a new thing. We need to look at all these things that have been done, like she just said, and pick out the kernels and see if we can make a story out of it, because it is sort of a story. And I agree with Fran that there's a lot of meat there. It's a little bit, you'd have to really love to read it all if you to sift through it. But if we could sift through it ourselves and each take a different thing and try to find the kernel of what each of these things offers, maybe we could come up with a story that would make sense for Orleans, because we don't want to talk in generalities. Affordable housing is a great idea in general, but it's not, we need to be as specific as we can, I think, in terms of our city, our town, so that we start to look at some of the other things. Another thing that I thought of listening to people, they wanted the issue with the 107 Main Street with the garden, give some to the market, do all these things. You can create a place that has community gardens and a playground and things like that. Over at Nauset Green, they put a playground in there. They've got a community center for the people who live there in Eastham. So I think it'll be really helpful for us to come out with some examples of how you could put this all together. So the image of a big box with people living in it, we get rid of that feeling in people's mind, because I think that's what they see when they hear the word, and we know that's not what we're about. We know that's not what we want to create. And I know we've tried to share it with the people at 107 Main, and I think we could do more information on our plan for them as well. More pictures. Pictures, I think, are really helpful, or possibilities. Andrea.
I'm sorry, I'm just, Nancy,
sorry.
I don't know if you remember that George started off the 107 Main with a visual. And based on that, because we haven't really engaged with the design guidelines, the Historic Commission and the CHOW, the new Historic Society, are putting together a survey of old Orleans buildings, a visual reference survey that eventually they'll present to the planning board to be an accompaniment to the design guidelines. And I think when you look at some of the historic forms that have been in town, people will and have a visual reference for a potential developer to then know and understand here forms that people like or embrace in this town already, and their designs could come to refer to that. That will help move along. If you guys are evolving text, you could be coordinating with other boards, Architectural Review, Historic Commission, to develop a visual things that also together, really set the table for good development. But I'm listening very particularly to Marcia's comments and George's comments, and I hope you all have seen that missing middle piece. That was, George, was it resiliency, designed by resiliency?
That was discussed with the Affordable Housing Committee a year ago, or maybe a year and a half, when it was a little more alive.
But I
Can you
think
elaborate on that? I'm sorry, can you elaborate a little bit more on this missing middle? Just flesh that out a little bit, George.
Yeah, the Design Studios architectural firm out of Providence was hired by the Cape Cod Commission to look at housing types and how we could try to restructure housing in the future on Cape Cod to better meet the needs of the community. And the missing middle is basically a ramp up from the single family home to the large apartment building on the other end. And in between are little, like garden apartments and condos and bungalows and accessory apartment units. And there's this middle that might be 4 dwelling units on a half acre, which is now allowed anywhere in the downtown. So the missing middle is kind of the not affordable, lowercase affordable housing that's really needed in the area. So maybe that's a message that we get across. The missing middle is missing for a reason. It's not very easy to get to. we're working on it.
It's missing middle buildings, not people. It's
Yeah.
the buildings we're talking
We're
about.
missing the middle income people and the middle income density of development in our communities. We have Tonsett Woods and Rock Harbor Village and single family homes, you know, and some condos, of course. But like that middle type is not really well represented in our communities down here. So maybe that's a message that we want to work in that direction more.
So like with 107 Main, if you took either of the two old snow houses that were on that site a long time ago, and you thought about the scale of them and then subdividing them up, you know, it's the idea of a manor house or a big house that then is converted to smaller apartments within it. But the facade, what the public sees is a beautiful old large home on a site, which is where the conversation started with 107 Main. And so whether it's a fishing community or a camp style with small bungalows, or it's an old manor house that inside is divided into apartments, there is that's the middle piece between a single family home and big blocks of square looking apartments. And normally that's what the public neighborhoods push back against, is this 1950s or 60s scale square that disrupts a neighborhood.
So Nancy, there's a couple of messages in here that just need to be conveyed. One is that the town has thought through the future of its downtown and has made some plans, and those need to be conveyed in some super summary fashion in understandable non-planner speak. So I'll let somebody else write those or translate them. But you know, I'd be glad to try to summarize each study in like 2 sentences, and then you guys can convert it into something, because I think it'd probably be easier for me to just relive my past than for you to all dig up the 100 pages at a time and go through it. Okay.
That's
That's a
delightful.
great idea.
Thank you, George. I think that would be helpful, because I did try to start that today, and it's a lot, there's a lot of
There's a
material
lot
there.
in there. Yeah, you got a lot to review. That'd be a great help, George.
But I think it'd be I think the point we're getting to, which I really like, is that a lot of work has been done. We've been thinking about this for a while. This is not a new idea that the Affordable Housing Committee just came up with because the trust board got some infusion of cash. This is something we've been talking about for years, and this is how it can fit into the fabric and what people want for the town of Orleans. And I think that's our message. And it sounds really obvious right now, but it's taken all this discussion to actually really put that into my brain. So I think that's where we want to go. Marcia.
Yeah, I will put in a few words of caution, because we were getting into a missing middle where I was before. And it is, like George says, it's really a land use, a housing form, a building form, architectural standards. It's not synonymous, as a matter of fact, it's not synonymous with affordable housing. So if you're going to take on missing middle, I would hesitate the Affordable Housing Committee taking that on. I mean, obviously with the Village Center and all the design studies and what the planning board has done, it's very much up their alley. But if you're talking about, and having heard a lot of the discussion about the money needing to go to affordable big A, and the fact that when you design affordable housing projects, you need to leave yourself as much room as possible on the financial side. So whether you can assure any particular architectural forms you need to not box yourself in that way. So I think what I hear is the complementarity of it in the Village Center. There's a role for missing middle, but there's a role for affordable housing. So given that we were talking about the Affordable Housing Committee's community engagement process, I think you just have to be careful not making missing middle part of that engagement process per se, unless it's joint with the planning board looking at the complementarity of the two concepts. But missing middle is not affordable per se.
Somebody respond to that besides me. What do you?
Generally, missing middle, it can be affordable because it can go 80 to 100, 120% median. So, I mean, when they've talked about it in terms of income, you're talking about median and a little higher for the missing middle. Now, it depends on the jurisdiction and the area, and I don't know enough about the economics here. But in Arlington, Virginia, it was a higher income. Not to say it wasn't needed. As a matter of fact, it was very much needed. But you didn't want to get into a position of affordable housing competing against missing middle housing.
Fran?
I think that if we combine mixed income housing, then we solve that problem. That we can use our affordable housing advocacy to bring awareness to and leverage opinions and public support for mixed housing that include affordable housing. And therefore, no, it's not the same. We can't guarantee that we can make our affordable housing fit the middle income, all the design criteria and everything we'd love. But if we mix it with mixed income and maybe mixed use, I think we can ride that train together.
There's one more train that you may hear and have pushback about. Nancy, can I just let?
Sure.
Is that okay? And this is why I think you're arriving at this great point, which is clarifying the role of the Affordable Housing Committee. And we're going to be looking at these other pressures as a community. And one of them is, and it's came up with the police station when it became public that the electric bill on the new police station was obscene relative to not adding that money in. So now the question is, when the town builds a public building or takes on a public building, the sustainability or the ownership of running that building. And my guess is that there'll be some pressure. It might be relieved if the town says it's going to hire a developer to build these projects. But we're just coming up with a renewing of, we're a green community, we're coming up with renewing of the stretch code commitments, and we're looking ahead. Other committees are going to be talking about providing as much energy and sustainable aware how sites run. So again, that not your purview, but it may come in like the missing middle economic factor that Marcia is raising. It may come into play about our philosophy about how we develop property in town. I don't think you need to pay attention to it, but as you develop your advocacy, your feelings about what a project should look like when it's done, the sustainability of that project, whether it has gardens, rain gardens, the kind of perks, and you may have feelings about it, and to be aware that sustainable sites may come into play as well. I just want to throw out there just to keep that in mind.
I think another point to go with that, along with that, though, is we have to remember to try to explain that we don't really want to own property as a town. We want to find a developer to do this. And I think maybe people don't quite understand that that's our main goal. And that's probably along with the 40B discussion and the AIMs. I think that is important that we get that piece across. I'm looking at the clock because this is a wonderful discussion. I knew I was going to need more time than until 5:15. So let me just stop for a second.
Nancy, I just wanted to make one more comment if I could.
Sure.
I just, we talk about the missing middle, and I always feel like I'm the bearer of bad news, but we can't advocate for the missing middle over and above, what our charge is. I mean, we're here for affordable housing. And although I agree with you that it's missing, we need to do, something needs to be done to assist the middle income families, but we're kind of restricted from doing that, just as the trust is restricted from using their money for it. So I think
that we're not pushing the missing middle.
And
we're pushing the missing middle.
Nancy, I just wanted to finish. I just want to be careful about, telling people that we're also going to be helping out the missing middle, because I don't think it's really transparent to say we're going to hit this with market rate income. I think we need to be upfront with them that we are limited in that way. So I just want to be clear, because I don't want to come back and have people say, hey, that's not what you told us you were going to do at the same time.
George.
That's all.
Yeah, the way I would think of that is, and I think the light bulb went on when Fran said something about incomes. As long, in a mixed project, you're gonna get some affordables. And that's our goal, is to get affordable units. If we could, if there's some market rate units that we can get down to a lower cost, all the better. That go, in so a 40B, maybe we can, or any project, we can manipulate it to always get affordable units, but maybe try to get some workforce kind of housing involved.
Right.
I just think we have to be careful on the economics of a project. So if you want mixed income housing on a site and you're going to get a single developer to do it, to the extent that you're mandating 120% of median, it may or may not work for the subsidized piece. That's all. It complicates the financing tremendously, especially if you're going for tax exempt, et cetera. So it's not impossible, and I've seen it being done, but the economics does present a constraining factor when if you'd have a single developer. Now, if you had a broader plan and you had multiple parties involved in developing the site, then maybe you can do it.
Nancy, just a question. And this may, I don't know how to say this. You, as the Affordable Housing Committee, and the realities of financing standalone projects versus some integrated income projects, are you also going to articulate, or do you even want to confront that kind of federal dollars in how standalone capital A affordable housing works continues to propagate the isolation of a community in a way that I think you guys could take a leadership role and say, we are not swallowing this hook, line, and sinker to perpetuate this this kind of hollowing out of our community by income level. I think you could walk a very interesting line here and show some leadership for Orleans without continuing the red line legacy of racial segregation. I think you have to have some conversations among your committee about everything you've said and what you choose to how to go forward, given that this is right now.
Exactly. Bill.
Yeah, this has been really helpful and interesting, and I really think helpful. But I'm sitting here thinking, in a way, as we talk about, Andrew referred to, we're clarifying our role and how we see ourselves and what our role is, and talking about this, all these types of housing. We're back to having a full understanding ourselves. I mean, I just learned a little bit more about middle housing that I never knew before in the last few minutes. And I think we need, again, to go back to the definition of what are we talking about and what housing are we talking about, and then looking at our role so we can clarify it. Because if we get caught up in the as we're trying to clarify our role in putting out information to people, and we're still a little not sure what our definitions are, we're not going to accomplish what we need to accomplish. And I know we're running out of time, Nancy. I just would like to, the other thought I had, jumping ahead, is at some point, one of the other concerns or the content that you referred to is deciding how to secure expert assistance, and it references consultant services. And going through this conversation that we've just had, the word that kept coming back to my mind was facilitator. I think if we could, and it would be so much easier if we could be together, but I think if we could look into spending some money for a facilitator to help us go through this process and clarify our own conversation, I think that would be helpful. Just something to think about.
Yes, we have lots of good stuff is coming out of here. I need another half an hour to pull it all together, which we don't have. But so let's see if I can stop this conversation and give us something to do in between until the next time we meet, because I don't want to lose any impetus that we have. We have an impetus right now, and I'm really concerned that we got to keep trudging through this. I think, would you agree to, when we started this, that somebody needs to sit, George, okay, excuse me. This is complicated. I don't mean to, if George sits down, I want some action items. Let's try some action items for the next time we meet, because I think we're not going to solve this all today, obviously. If George would do a capsule report of all the studies that have been done that might relate to us as affordable housing, that would help. That would give us a short, like 2 or 3 sentences on each one, the core of what it would be. And then if we wanted to go back and find more detail, we'd know where to go. So if George could do that. I think some definitions, I think we started out with the definitions of the AIMs and the 40B, and what was the other one? There were 3 of them. Somebody want to work on definitions? We have little definitions, but definitions as they apply to Orleans, I guess. Somebody want to work on definitions? Fran, will you do that? Or no? Yes. And the third, let's see, the third thing, I think actually, on our paper, the first one, the purposes probably covers most of what we want to do now, but if we could be thinking of our purposes and also thinking who we might target to explain that, I mean, I'd be able to do those 2 things together in a way.
Nancy?
Yes. Yes, Marcia.
Yeah, I have a suggestion on that. It seems to me from what I've heard, going back to something George says about what is this Affordable Housing Committee, not the whole world committee, but the Affordable Housing Committee, see in terms of achieving the goal of 100 units over 10 years in 3, 4, or 5 projects, including 107 Main, Governor Prince, CC5, and a couple more. I don't know what the numbers add up to, so I'm sort of thrashing around. I think the purpose then becomes focused on advocacy for initiatives. So what you're coming up with is a process for the Affordable Housing Committee to come up with resources, timeline, etc., to advocate for the production of the 100 units of affordable housing, which could be part of bigger efforts in Village Center, Governor Prince, etc., and how the committee can make the case to a few targeted audiences about the need for affordable housing being part of this larger effort and achieving the 100 units. So I think you could focus in that way. I sort of liked how George's saying is, what do we want to do in the next 3, 4, or 5 projects to achieve our goal?
And who would like to figure that out?
Well,
Do you
I'd be
want, do you want to put that
happy to
question out? Do
suggest-
you want to put that question out to all of us and have us look at that?
Well, if you permit me, then I can take this outline and sort of focus it in on that piece and just come out with some suggestions about how it might look and try to incorporate a lot of what you said, what Bill said about the facilitator, et cetera, and sort of come up with a shorter term, a 1-year community engagement process focusing on advocating for 100 units over 10 years on, on a multiple sites with focus on Village Center, et cetera, et cetera. So sort of taking a lot of what was discussed here, which I thought was very helpful, and really come down with a much more doable engagement process that is a 1 or 2 year process.
I would love I think a timeline would be extremely helpful for us to get us focused on what we need to do. If you'd like to do that and send it to me, maybe an idea.
I do think though you need consultant research, not beyond the facilitator. You need some skilled graphics or communication specialists to do it. I don't think it's just something that somebody does on their laptop. It really needs somebody who understands communication strategies. So If you let me write it in. I have no idea what it would cost and what it would take to procure that, but I do think you need some expert assistance on that.
Okay. Shelley, thank you.
Nancy, as a part of that, I've been thinking, I went to the Housing Institute with Fran this year, and I've been to some housing group meetings for the Outer Cape. And I think there probably are a lot of video and handout kind of resources that we could accumulate that might be helpful to us, so we don't have to reinvent the wheel. And that might work for the facilitators too, because they have facilitators at CDP that are pretty used to doing this kind of stuff. I'd be happy to follow up with them and see what's available that we might get our hands on, either from the Institute or from other towns on the Cape that have already had, community meetings that we can revise or use as is. But I'd be happy to take on that piece of trying to get some materials.
So I
or,
guess we have to,
video
sounds
stuff.
good. I think what we have to do is sort of, if you funnel it sort of through me and we can put it to some kind of a package that we can all look at,
Right.
because I think that's the only way we can really meet at this point. But I do want to say one comment, though, that I think it sort of came through here. We need to focus on our town as we do this, because there's a lot of really good information out there about how everybody else is doing it. And I do think, I agree with you that we can learn from them. But I think if we're going to go out really, we don't need to advocate for the cause of affordable housing. We need to see how affordable housing or mixed use housing comes into this town and who we are really talking about, so that we don't get so broad that we forget that we have to really deal with the issues and the places that we actually can use. And having been to those peer group meetings, Wellfleet is really different than Brewster. Orleans is really different than Provincetown. I mean, they are all unique places, and what works in one, we can learn from their experience and we can learn from their resources, but what's going to work in Orleans is really has to be crafted with Orleans in mind, I think. And I think that's, I'm going to end on that.
But if it's much easier to have a template to work from and
Oh,
be able
sure.
to plug in what's appropriate for our town than having to start from scratch. So
Exactly. I agree with you that we have lots of resources to do that, but I think we finally want to narrow it down to, I'm going to have to end this discussion. I thank everybody for what they've accomplished and what they've already promised to do more. And if you didn't get an actual assignment, you heard about a whole lot of ideas that you can be thinking of, so you can also be working on that as well. Can I just get an approval of the minutes from October 6th? Can I have a
So
motion to
moved.
approve the minutes of October 6th?
So move.
second,
Bill moved, second by, I didn't even
Shelley.
hear it, Shelley?
Yeah. and I
Okay,
think Rich did a fabulous job getting them together, especially for a first run.
you
Right.
did, because we're having a
Did.
lot of discussions. Thank you, Rich.
Thank you. Welcome.
Excuse me. Can you just change the name of Charlie Price to Charlie Adams?
Yes.
Great,
Oh, I'm
thanks.
sorry. With one correction, okay. Can we just have a vote? Do I have to vote? Can you just raise your hands? To approve the minutes? Okay. All in favor, 700, thank you. And the other piece of information, we have to change our meeting again for December because of the election again. I called, I'm Sarah, and the only two dates that we can have in December are December 9th and December 10th. That's how busy this thing is. So can either of those not work for anybody? Can we choose one of these? I have to lock it in tomorrow. So
Which days of the week are they?
the Wednesday is the December 9th and Thursday is December 10th. Is there somebody who cannot make a Wednesday or a Thursday?
Yeah,
Andrea.
Nancy can't make
Well,
it.
the select board would be meeting on the Wednesday.
Sure.
So the Thursday is
Thursday,
a
right
little
there.
easier.
I
Thursday.
can do Thursday.
Is December 10th, okay then?
Yeah.
And then back to January, we'll be back to our regular meeting time. So I'm sorry for the inconvenience, but it's not my decision. All right,
So I have a question, Nancy.
Yes,
Are we limited to meeting once a month by town rules? Or could we elect to meet twice a month?
I
Or
don't know.
once a week, or on some other schedule, since we're trying to get some things accomplished?
Is there a
And we're
rule about
limited
it?
in our time.
I don't know.
I'm just putting it out there for people to
I
think.
think, I think we do
I'm not
need,
aware of
I
any
think we do need
limitations.
some time in between for people to put together the things that we talked about today.
Right,
I think right now, I'd suggest we stay monthly. Maybe as we get more into actual action items to implement some of the things we're talking about. But I think in the planning stage, we still need time to put some thoughts together.
Right. Okay, and besides, we're going, maybe in January when we're still stuck in our homes, that might be a really good idea to do it in January. So I think that's a good idea, Shelley, but maybe
Hmm.
we'll just wait until after the holidays. What those will be.
just wondered what the
Um,
requirements were.
Pardon me?
I just wondered what the regulations,
I guess
Were-
that, I don't think there are there any, Andrea, George? Can you meet more than once?
You can meet
Yes.
as often as you can post meetings.
Okay.
Okay.
Well, I
And-
think we have
and you
enough
can-
to do.
Please don't.
You could,
Andrea?
you can also meet in smaller groups as long as you don't have quorum to get assignments done, if you're collaborating.
Right.
Do we have to meet on?
I gotta switch over.
All right, to adjourn, yes, roll call quickly, Shelley. Okay, every 700 agreed to adjourn. Sorry to rush you all, but
Okay.
to be continued.
Good
I'll send
job.
out an email. Thank you very
Good job,
much.
Nancy.
Night.
Thank you.
Yeah.